Welcome to our daily reflection for this Sunday, August 24th. And of course, today is a day of celebration and it's a day of joy because it's the Lord's Day. And this is the day it has victory over sin and death. And so it'll be a day of special celebration for us. And then we have the readings. And the gospel today is challenging because we want to experience the fruits of Jesus' victory over death and sin by being with him for heaven, for eternity, to be saved. And here in the gospel reading, people ask Jesus, will few be saved? And they've been listening to Jesus' preaching and his teaching. And it's a hard teaching. It's a challenging teaching. And it provokes the question, are few going to be saved? And Jesus says, he gives them a cautionary, sober answer. And he says, many, I tell you, will attempt to enter, but you should enter by the narrow gate, right? Strive to enter by the narrow gate. That the way to heaven, the way to the kingdom of God is a narrow gate. And he says, I tell you, many will attempt to enter that gate, but not be able. And so it does seem that Jesus is confirming that few, in proportion to the many, will be saved. That should be sobering for us. Why is that? Well, I think one of the key things, as we're going to see, is that we see in the second reading from the Epistle to the Hebrews, is that there's exhortation in Hebrews is don't disdain or reject the discipline of the Lord. He disciplines his children. Those who are to be his sons and daughters, he disciplines. And, discipline means there's going to be training in righteousness, which is unpleasant at times, and especially hard on our pride. And I think the reason people throw off that training for that narrow way is that they have an ego and they don't want to admit their mistakes, their faults, their failures, their need for God's grace and help. And so they don't pray and beg for that grace, and they're proud. And the humble pray, the proud do not. And that's one of the differences. And so to have the strength to enter into that narrow gate that Jesus speaks about in the gospel, we have to be humble enough to be corrected and to be trained up in righteousness. This is not an easy thing. We need to be trained up by the grace of God. He wants to raise us up and train us up, but we have to be receptive. And that is going to be crucial. And that's what the second reading is all about. And then he also talks about how many will come from east and west. So there's a universal nature of the kingdom of God. Even though the way is narrow and few enter it, those few will come from all over the world. And it will be a universal gathering of the elect, of the saved. And that's what we have in the first reading. In Isaiah 66, at the end of this greatest of all prophets, he talks about how God will do a sign amongst and gather all the nations into his great work in the end of a new creation. And he will gather them from all the coastlands, from all the distant lands, and they will proclaim my glory and worship me in my own city. And I will gather them from every nation and every tongue. And here is a sign. There will be a sign that God is doing this, and that is that there will be people from all nations, all tongues, giving worship to God. And he will take for Levites and priests people from amongst all the nations. And that's what we see in the Catholic priesthood today. We have bishops and priests from all over the world. It is a Catholic religion, Catholic meaning universal, global. And that's what we see today. And remember, when Isaiah prophesies this, the Jews are a small, weak remnant in the midst of all the nations. They don't even have their own nation. They're conquered by the Babylonians, the Medes, and the Persians. And yet, God will take their faith and religion, and he will raise up a son of the line of David, Jesus, who will bring in all the nations to worship him. This prophecy, which is completely implausible, is now realized, and that should give us faith. And that faith should awaken in us the desire to accept the discipline of the Lord that we hear about in Hebrews, because we want to be saved. We want to enter that narrow gate. But to do so, we can't just be familiar with Jesus. That's what he warns about. Many will have eaten, people will say, we ate a table with you, maybe the Eucharistic table, but they weren't faithful to Jesus. And we need to strive to be faithful, to be obedient. That is what's important. So let's ask in humility for the grace to be faithful to the Lord who calls us. May the Lord bless and keep you. I'm so excited about this month of August because it's our 20th anniversary for the Augustine Institute. And all of us here at the Augustine Institute are so excited about, as we look back over the past 20 years, all the amazing things that the Lord has done and how many people He's brought into our reach. You know, we've become the largest Catholic graduate school in theology. We have the largest video platform formed. And now we have the fastest growing curriculum, Word of Life, in Catholic schools. And now we have this beautiful new campus, a half hour north of the city of St. Louis on the Bucolic Bluffs overlooking the Missouri River. And all these things God has done, and we see that He wants to do so much more. You know, we have more requests than ever for our growing graduate school. I have priests and religious around the globe actually asking us for scholarships so that they can attend our graduate school. We have so many people asking for so much more content from our form platform. All kinds of opportunities. And what is at the heart of our ability to reach so many people is our mission partners, those who donate. And so I want to invite you to join our special fellowship of donors called the Mission Circle. Because people who join this membership in our Mission Circle, we have a special community and we do special things with them and for them on a monthly basis. But what they do is by prayer and by financial support, you help empower our mission to reach more and more souls for Jesus Christ. You know, we're really reaching millions, but there's millions more to reach. And we want to do that as we look to the future. And so as our Pope Leo XIV, who calls himself a spiritual son of St. Augustine, we want you to join us as children of St. Augustine and under our patron St. Augustine. Help us to share the good news of Jesus Christ, because our mission is simple: to help Catholics understand, live, and share the gospel. Become a member, please, by the Feast of St. Augustine, by August 28th. We want to grow our membership so that we can grow our mission. Thank you so much, and God bless.